This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Strong mayor powers. Premier Tim Houston says his government is looking at giving broad authority to Halifax Mayor Andy Fillmore.
Neighborhood evacuated. Fire at former high school forces out some Glace Bay residents.
And no delivery. The Inverness co-op suspends its shopping service, making it harder for those without a car to get groceries.
A system sliding to our south will bring widespread clouds and a few showers and a risk for a rumble of thunder on Friday. We're clearing for the weekend. The details are coming up.
Good evening. Premier Tim Houston issued a scathing appraisal of Halifax Regional Council today, saying there's a serious disconnect between the decisions being made and the desires of citizens.
As a result, he says the province is examining whether to give the mayor more power and whether to intervene itself to override at least one council vote. Michael Gorman reports.
As Halifax deals with gridlock in the streets and in the council chamber, Premier Tim Houston is losing patience.
When you look at some of the decisions that council seems to be making, they don't seem to be focused on citizens. They seem to be focused on something else. I don't know what that is.
Houston's ire today was directed at a recent council decision to build a bike lane on Morris Street and make it one way for cars.
I think people who live in Halifax and people who are watching are kind of just scratching their heads and saying, why would this be the time to take that street and make it into a one-way street and take half of it for bicycles?
The Tories could proclaim legislation that would allow the province to override municipal decisions related to transportation. Houston says he's also open to strong mayor powers, which would give Mayor Andy Fillmore the ability to hire and fire staff and make decisions without majority council support. Some city councillors are uneasy with that idea.
If you turn the civil service into an arm of the mayor's office, are you going to get good, unbiased professional advice, or is it going to end up tainted as people try and, massage recommendations to fit what the person who can fire them wants to hear?
Austin and other councillors point out that the province is not supposed to unilaterally change rules in HRM.
By their own friggin' law, they're supposed to consult with us. They're supposed to engage with us if they change the charter.
All of this comes a day after the city's CAO announced she plans to end her contract early and retire in October. Cathy O'Toole said the decision was not due to the debate around strong mayor powers. Provincial opposition leaders say before Houston wades into municipal business, he ought to do what is in his own purview to help with traffic. They note the province has been sitting on a report for months that explores options for addressing congestion on HRM streets. Michael Gorman, CBC News, Halifax.
A barricaded man was shot by police in Halifax this morning after he allegedly threatened officers with a weapon. Halifax Regional Police's tactical unit arrived at the home on Arlington Avenue after officers were first called there at 7 p.m. the night before. Police say the man made threats towards them throughout the night. Crisis negotiators worked with the man, but around 7 a.m. this morning, he allegedly pointed a firearm at police, prompting them to shoot him. The man was taken into custody a short time later and was taken to hospital with serious injuries. A woman known to the suspect was also inside the home at the time. She was treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Halifax Regional Police has referred the shooting to the Serious Incident Response Team.
An overnight fire at an abandoned school in Glace Bay forced the evacuation of a number of homes in the community. And as Anorak reports, residents say the old building has been a long-time concern for the community.
Smoke billowed into the sky as fire crews worked to put out a fire at Morrison High School in Glace Bay. It started early in the morning and continued into the day. 9 homes in the area have been evacuated. Marlene and Jim Gillard called 911. Soon after, they were told to leave their home.
We just went in, we took everything out of the house that we needed, the important things. We snapped pictures of the inside of it and the outside of it for insurance purposes.
The school has been standing empty for several years. Residents in the area have been asking to have the old building torn down.
We knew it was going to happen. If they only had taken the school down when we told them to, we've been putting up with it now for about 13 or 14 years.
It's very worrisome. Nobody got hurt so far, and we want to keep it that way. But these old buildings, they got to go.
No one was injured by the fire. It also wasn't the only vacant structure fire that crews had to deal with in Glace Bay.
We had one at Fish Plant this morning at the end of in Main Street. That started at midnight, and we cleaned up there at 5 a.m. And this one started at 7, and we expect to be here the rest of the day. The same departments that are here right now are the same departments that were here for 5 hours this morning, so we have some very tired firefighters.
The cause of both fires are under investigation.
When you have two vacant buildings within a very short span of each other, it's going to be investigated by the fire marshal.
Anna Rack, CBC News, Glace Bay.
3 companies have been ordered to pay a total of $260,000 for health and safety violations after an engineer drowned while working at a Nova Scotia power reservoir in 2020. Andrew Nasdowski died after he went into the water to try and retrieve a piece of floating survey equipment that had malfunctioned in a reservoir in Sheet Harbour. A provincial court judge found Nasdowski's employer, Brunswick Engineering and Consulting, failed to ensure safe work practices related to working on water, and that the company failed to provide rescue equipment when there was a risk of drowning. Gemtech Consulting Engineering and Scientists Limited of Fredericton and Nova Scotia Power were also fined for failing to ensure Brunswick Engineering employees were provided with rescue equipment. There was no rescue boat on site when Nasdowski died.
And Ryan Snoddon with us now to talk weather.
Yeah, kind of hard to find the sun today.
Yeah, that's going to be a similar story for Friday as well, Tom and Amy. A little on the gloomy side. We'll see some breaks of sun for the western parts of the province into the afternoon. Thanks so much. High temperatures are going to be cooler than what they were today. The winds are shifting to an easterly wind for tomorrow. Have a look at temperatures out there for today, and you can see 27 at Truro. That was one of our hotter spots. Temperatures a bit cooler in the south and west. And we're all going to be in the high teens, a couple of low 20s out there. The best chance will actually be in the western areas as we do see the skies starting to clear out. And again, it is an easterly wind tonight, and that will continue into Friday morning, though the wind's easing. Note the bulk of the precipitation moving away, and it is just a lot of cloud and a couple of showers into the afternoon. Nothing too dominant here at all. By the time we get to Friday evening, we're starting to see that clear out, and the trend will continue into Saturday. Looking at a mix of sun and cloud for Saturday, and again on Sunday. Those temperatures, they're looking pretty toasty, especially for this time of year, looking pretty good. And we're talking some heat and humidity for mid next week. We'll talk about that coming up.
Real summer. Okay,
sure.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Researchers behind recent homelessness counts in Nova Scotia say the issue is getting worse in rural parts of the province. As the CBC's Josh Hoffman tells us, significant service gaps are creating unique challenges for unhoused people and the organizations trying to help them.
Homeless populations are growing in rural parts of Nova Scotia, according to researchers tracking the issue. Mary Sweetman is a professor at Acadia University who led a homeless count across the western part of the province late last year.
The reason why we do this work is because it was a call to action from the organizations that we work with and we support, that they really wanted an outside organization to prove what they were seeing anecdotally. And that is that there is a rising concern of homelessness in rural Nova Scotia.
The count was the first for the region since 2022 and covered a much larger area than previous ones. It found nearly 700 people were experiencing various types of homelessness in November alone.
What this count is telling us is that there's an acute issue that needs a collaborative cross-sector response to house our community members in more dignified ways.
Sweetman says this count is modeled after what's been done by Cape Breton University in eastern Nova Scotia since 2016. CBU led a homeless count in that part of the province last year and has also seen numbers going up.
We saw a 72% increase in homelessness in these rural parts of the eastern zone since 2021.
In addition to a lack of affordable housing and shelters, Leviton Reid says there are service gaps from community to community, and barriers to transportation make it difficult for people to access help.
If I look at research projects in other parts of the country on rural homelessness, the conclusion is that these people just go without services.
The gaps are putting a lot of strain on existing organizations that are trying to meet the demand.
The impact on those of us in this work is huge, but also that just speaks to the impact of the people who are living it.
Kent says the results of the counts legitimize the work done by organizations like Posse and the need for sustainable funding. She says decentralizing services in rural areas is essential to helping people who are homeless instead of expecting them to travel significant distances.
I know people who have to exchange sexual favors for rides to their medical appointments. And that shouldn't be a reality of rural Nova Scotia.
A spokesperson for the province says these community-led counts provide important local insights for areas where data is limited, and they're working with service providers to try to address the growing problem. Josh Hoffman, CBC News, Halifax.
Nova Scotia Health is holding measles vaccination clinics in New Glasgow. It comes after the health authority confirmed one case of the disease in the area earlier this week. First and second doses will be offered at the New Glasgow Public Library on July 14th from 1 to 7. That is drop-in only. On July 17th from 9 a.m. till 2:30 p.m., a clinic will be offered at New Glasgow Public Health Office. That's by appointment only. Then a drop-in clinic will be back at New Glasgow Library on August 14th from 1 to 7 p.m.
The provincial government says it will need more help from Ottawa to achieve a $10 a day childcare by March 2026. The Minister of Education and Early Childhood Development, Brendan Maguire, says the province is on track to open 9,600 more childcare spaces by then. But he says the province's population growth wasn't factored in at the time the agreement was initially made.
Listen, we just signed our new agreement with the federal government. There's a few things. It's not just money, but we realize that there is a role for private sector in this in order for us to achieve what we need to achieve. So there's lots of things that we're discussing, whether it's funding, it's private sector, it's space.
A report released on Wednesday says Halifax has the 6th most expensive childcare fees out of 35 major Canadian cities. As of April, the median fee for childcare in Halifax was $24 a day per child. The Inverness Co-op is temporarily suspending its delivery and pickup service.
And for seniors, the disabled community, and people without a vehicle, it's now harder to get their groceries into town with no public transit. The CBC's Anna Rack reports.
That's John Yip's screen reading software. He is blind, and the technology makes his computer more accessible to use. This way, he can read documents, navigate with his mouse, and surf the internet. He lives in Inverness, in a long-term care facility. On Facebook, he saw that his local co-op will be temporarily suspending their delivery and pickup services on July 10th.
Not only affecting me, it's affecting the seniors, the disabled, the seniors, and the general public, because not everybody has a car in Inverness.
The co-op is a 10-minute walk from where he is living. But for the seniors and disabled residents, it is much harder to get there, especially since there is no local taxi service in Inverness.
In the weather like today with the humidity and such, it's a far walk to go from the seniors complex. There's one up by the arena here in Inverness, and that's a far walk for people to go to the drugstore or go to the co-op and pick up groceries. And to lug them home with two hands, that's even harder.
The manager of the Inverness Co-op says this decision was not made lightly.
There's a lot of people that rely on it. We have about 20 to 25 people that use the service. So it was a hard decision to make that we had to stop it temporarily.
Tingley says the store isn't properly staffed to handle the delivery service, as multiple employees are needed to fulfill a delivery request.
It's a three-step process. You have an employee that takes the order over the phone, then you have somebody that picks the order, and then you have another employee that delivers it. And so it's more than just one person. So once we get our staff in place for the summer, we will be getting it rectified.
He says he hopes to have the service back as soon as possible, but it's possible it won't be back until the fall. Meanwhile, John Yip is trying to get help from the community to fill in the gaps. He has put an ad out online looking for someone to help with his grocery deliveries. Anna Rack, CBC News, Inverness.
Yep, we've got some visitors in town.
Sure do.
Ryan's up next with his weather forecast. Stay with us.
This weather update is brought to you by Access Wellness Nova Scotia. Book your appointment today for free, confidential mental wellness support.
All right, cloudy day in Nova Scotia, but not a bad day in Halifax.
And if you liked it today, tomorrow.
Rinse and repeat?
Yeah. Rinse and repeat, which is probably a good thing that, we've got the clouds dominating. We do need the rain. So it's kind of unfortunate that, we're not cashing in, so to speak.
With it's gray, it might as well rain.
It might as well rain. That's right. And that's not really going to be the case for tomorrow. It just looks pretty spotty in terms of the showers. Have a look at, first and foremost, our webcam shot from this evening. This is off
Looks
beautiful
pretty good
Parsboro.
there, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A little gray or no?
That
A little
is
gray,
nice.
but
so pretty though, isn't it?
Yeah, Parsboro, Rockcliffe there, Parsboro, and again, it's a pretty fine evening overall across the province. The temperatures into the low to mid 20s up towards northern parts of the province, including Cape Breton. You can see that down towards the south, we do have temps that have been cooler today, into the teens across the southwest. And that is thanks to, well, the clouds that have been more dominant there and some showers rolling through. Note the dew point values. It's been pretty fine today overall. Variable dew points, a 17 at New Glasgow, a 10 at Sheet Harbour, but overall it hasn't been oppressive. That's the good news. And as we look at the humidex, there not much to add in terms of the temperature. And there's all that wet weather that has been tracking through today. Metro did see a few spits earlier, but the bulk of the activity has been Yarmouth, Shelburne, into Queens County, and down towards the Lunenburg area. Bridgewater have been seeing a few showers, Digby County as well. This is where we're going to continue to see the bulk of the wet weather tonight, with some rain and a risk for a rumble of thunder and a chance for some showers north of that, as I'll show you with the future tracker timeline. Here's this little dome of high pressure, which is going to be moving in for the weekend, which is great. Let's have a quick look at those temperatures across the country. 11 in Calgary. Spot the cold front here, no doubt about that. 20 degrees in Vancouver, 28 in Winnipeg, and you can see the temperatures 21 in St. John's, 12 in Iqaluit. So everybody doing pretty well in through across the country. And as we look at the overnight forecast for tonight, showers and a slight risk for thunderstorms here right along the Atlantic coastline, including for the metro area. It is going to be generally clouds with a chance for a shower across areas to the north, but you can see where the bulk of that wet weather will be tracking through. And again, there's that risk for a rumble of thunder through the overnight. By Friday morning, the bulk of the activity is going to be sailing off to the east. We're looking at a lot of clouds to start, some fog patches. The winds are going to become easterly overnight tonight and continue into Friday morning, and then the winds are going to become light. That's just not going to allow a whole lot of daytime heating to happen. Should pop, into the 20s here in the Tri-County area as we see the sun breaking in into the afternoon. Temps are going to struggle here in the east, and a better chance for showers in Cape Breton than anywhere else for tomorrow, especially into the afternoon. We'll see temperatures across Cape Breton peaking around 16 to 18 for most, but a nice easterly flow downsloping from the highlands means we should be into the low 20s from Cheticamp down to Port Hood. We'll be looking at temperatures in the 16 to 18 range for the eastern parts of the mainland. Into the central areas, looks like temps will range from about 18 to 20. And then for the west, we'll talk about temperatures here that are going to be more likely into the low 20s as we do get into a little bit of that afternoon sunshine. Okay. Everybody's waiting for the weekend forecast, right? And so it is looking good. Friday evening, by the way, looking pretty good as well for the mainland. That lingering shower chance for Cape Breton. Saturday morning, maybe an isolated shower here in Cape Breton in that onshore northeasterly flow. Into the afternoon on Saturday, this is going to be the setup. Sea breeze here, sea breeze here, sea breeze here, sea breeze here. And so along the spine of Nova Scotia, where those sea breezes will clash, we'll get the air rising, and that's where we'll have the potential for some isolated showers to develop. Keji, up towards New Ross, even inland by the airport and to the east, but the best chance looks to be here in the southwest, but it's an isolated risk indeed. Overall, Saturday is going to be a terrific day, and it looks like a similar setup for Sunday, where we'll see just those sea breezes clashing and the potential for some development of some showers or maybe an isolated thunderstorm into the afternoon, but they, again, look pretty isolated. Note the muggy meter climbing Tuesday and into Wednesday of next week. That's when the humidity will really build back in and the temperatures really building in as well. We'll call it hot and sticky mid next week, Tom and Amy. So nice to have some comfy temps for the weekend.
Yeah,
that's right.
Looks like it. Okay, thanks so much, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
After breaking 3 world records last month, Canada's Summer McIntosh is now eyeing her next challenge to try and break her own record.
And while doing so, she is inspiring the next generation of young swimmers, including some here in Halifax. Kayla Hounsell has the details.
3 world records. Take a deep breath, Summer. This is your moment.
It is the moment when Canadian swimming sensation Summer McIntosh made history yet again and raised the bar for the World Championships set to begin this Friday in Singapore.
I'm just excited to see how I manage doing 5 events, which I've never done before on the world level.
She destroys it again.
At the Canadian Trials in BC last month, McIntosh became the first swimmer to break a world record in 3 different individual events at one long course meet since Michael Phelps in 2008.
Yes, another one for Anna Mae Pierce of Canada.
Former Canadian world record holder Anna Mae Pierce, now Oldershaw, says McIntosh is a once-in-a-lifetime swimmer.
She gets compared to Michael Phelps and she gets compared to Katie Ledecky. And I think she's Summer McIntosh. The things that I can see for her, I think surpass that.
The 3-time Olympic champion says she was shocked to get a call from Phelps after her performance at trials.
I was not expecting that whatsoever. And I got to chat to him and he was so down to earth and so nice. And I've never met him before. So it was really cool to, talk to my childhood idol, and he's still my idol.
But now it's McIntosh inspiring the next generation of Canadian swimmers.
She's groundbreaking. She's setting the stage for so many future athletes, and she's just showing that literally anything's possible when you work hard enough to do those things.
She's like a freight train in the water.
14-year-old Brody McPherson witnessed McIntosh at trials.
The buzz from the crowd, once they realized that they were going to watch a world record get broken either the first time or again live, it was just insane.
McIntosh says she's going for as many golds as possible in Singapore. Her fans say 5 golds in 5 events is on the table, or, as it were, in the water. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
Coming up, Barbershop meetings discuss ways to prevent domestic violence in Nova Scotia. There has been plenty of attention on domestic violence in Nova Scotia. It's considered an epidemic in the province, and Black communities face high rates. Statistics Canada data from 2018 shows 42% of Black women have suffered intimate partner or domestic violence since the age of 15.
Tonight, we're highlighting a group of Black men in the Halifax area who met to talk about ways to prevent domestic violence in their communities. Their meetings were held by social workers, but they didn't gather in a therapist's office. They met in a barbershop.
The CBC's Elizabeth Chu sat in on their final meeting, and in part one of her series, she introduces us to the leaders who are helping to be the change. And a warning now, the content in this story may be triggering for some viewers.
Fine Lines Barbershop is closed for the evening, but hair clippers are still buzzing. About 15 Black and African Nova Scotian men, young and old, and from different communities, have shown up for a new look and a new outlook. They're gathering for a program, Barbershop Talks, Black men talking about domestic violence.
So before we start, gentlemen, we have Elizabeth and Kiki here. They're going to be filming us. This is going to be our last session for trying to get a push so that we can continue on doing workshops.
Social workers Mario Roll and Devon Bundy are guiding the conversation.
We're talking about mentorship. We're talking about brotherly love. That's the first thing. Mentorship and brotherly love. And we talk about how to do better, to work on your behavior, your attitudes, your emotions. All right? And basically to help foster a positive, healthy community.
I just want to take the time seriously and thank each and every guy for showing up week after week. This work and this space, that we're creating is a safe space for us as Black men to discuss things that are important to us, that kind of get swept under the rug.
Social work student Cordero Stirrup is part of the team. Growing up in the Bahamas, he witnessed domestic violence.
I'm a man that grew up in an environment where, how would I put it, trauma was natural and normal. And I had to educate myself on what it is to become a better man. And I use my past traumas as, how would I put this, identifiers for what I don't want to become. So it's good to emphasize like these traumas and help young men understand there's always a way out. And it's good to see success stories in people like myself and others.
The team calls themselves Winds of Change, and they're hoping to be agents of change, empowering Black men to help each other be better. Derek States is a barber and part of this cutting-edge program.
For people to come to the barbershop, I feel like it's a sense of relief. They come in, they feel like they can escape problems, negativity, things like that, and I feel like it's a great place for them to share their thoughts and how they feel. A lot of the times, you look to go to a therapist, I could be your therapist.
Whether you call this herapy or therapy, this gathering includes a church pastor. Reverend Ed Simmons has a message.
We are all here tonight for one reason, and that is let's see what we can do. Let's stand together and say, brother, I got your back. Let's choose to love. As Black men, we bought into this system and we've been killing each other. So at what point do we change that narrative and look at each other and say, hey, bro, I love you, man. Hey, brother, I love you, man. And there's no shame in that. As a matter of fact, we become empowered in that. Our sisters, hey, they're queens. And kings don't marry peasants. So we need to get into the mindset that our sisters, our Black women, are queens. And as kings, we should do that. So we're changing how we think. And when we change how we think as men, we change how we speak. When we change how we speak, we change how we act. And I'll tell you, that's powerful when we get together, because then we change our communities.
What would you do?
They're learning together.
For what you know now, what would you do?
It all starts with understanding that you cannot control what happens to you. You can only control yourself.
Roll's career is devoted to helping men succeed, and some of his reasons are personal.
Everything I do for my daughter. And I've seen a lot of young people, falling through the cracks. And in my mind, I'm thinking one day my daughter may marry one of these guys. And do she have to go through a domestic violence incident in order for someone to actually hear? So for me, I'm a person that I will act before something happens.
That's blunt talk.
What's your end goal? Just like half of it.
The hope is it leads to fresh attitudes.
What do you think?
Oh, I love it. It's awesome.
Elizabeth Chu, CBC News, Halifax.
And tomorrow night, hear more from the participants in part of 2 of Elizabeth's series on the Barbershop Talks on domestic violence.
Coming up, a 17-year-old has been charged with attempted murder in relation to an attack on an Ontario girl last month after police initially thought the girl's injuries were caused by an animal.
And a new study suggests that more than half of the hundreds of heat-related deaths across European cities last month can be attributed to climate change. Welcome back. Police have arrested a teenager in eastern Ontario after last month's attack on an 8-year-old girl. The 17-year-old has been charged with attempted murder and sexual assault with a weapon.
Police initially believed the injuries were likely from an animal. Nicole Williams has the latest.
It's a stunning revelation that has shaken this small village to its core.
My heart dropped. Right now I'm hurting really bad, yes.
Shocked, disbelief, heartbroken, numb.
2 weeks ago, an 8-year-old girl from the community of Quadville, Ontario, went missing, found after a late-night search, badly hurt.
These injuries that this little person suffered were horrible. Life-threatening, multiple injuries, horrible injuries.
Police suspected it was an animal attack, warning people nearby to keep young kids inside or under close watch, but not saying what to watch for.
We didn't know what was going on. There was a lot of questions like, why are we supposed to keep our kids indoors? What are we supposed to be scared of?
Now, in a shocking development, police have charged a 17-year-old male with attempted murder and sexual assault using a weapon on a minor.
As things progressed, we started looking at an individual in the community. And as a result of that, we made an arrest.
That was on Tuesday, and a day later, the results of forensic testing came back, showing no trace of animal DNA in the girl's wounds.
They did have every appearance of being an animal attack. The fact that it was a person is just something we kept as a door that was open.
For this small community of less than 300 people, the news of what may have happened to this little girl cuts deep.
It's very sad. I'm sorry. I didn't know her personally, but I see them all the time. It's very sad.
Police are not sharing details about the suspect because he's a minor. The teen scheduled to appear in court next week, but OPP's investigation continues, with officers still on the ground asking questions. And with tensions here at an all-time high, police are now looking to face those head-on. They're going to be hosting a town hall here on Saturday in the hopes of finally being able to provide some answers. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Quadville, Ontario.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Washington remains hopeful for a ceasefire deal in Gaza. The latest round of negotiations in Doha have been dragging on for days, and so has the fighting between Israel and Hamas. Sasha Petrusik has the latest from Jerusalem.
Early this morning, Israelis in Tel Aviv were woken up by a missile coming in from Yemen, from the Houthi rebels there. Israel says it was knocked out of the sky, but it means and it underlines just how much things are still continuing here, the threats that have been exchanged on both sides. We're also seeing airstrikes in Gaza by Israel and hearing that more than 50 people have been killed. This is having a big impact because many of the people in Gaza have been hearing about these negotiations going on and that peace is just around the corner. Doesn't seem that way to one woman who lost both her husband and her brother in this. The people closest to my heart are gone, she says. We're tired of being used as pawns for negotiations. So, as all of this fighting continues, the negotiations are continuing in Doha. Talks there between Israel and Hamas, indirectly through mediators like the Qataris and the United States. U.S. mediator and envoy Steve Witkoff is supposed to be arriving soon to take things to another level, they hope. But we've been hearing for several days now that an agreement, a negotiated settlement of some kind, a plan, would be in place within a few days. That's what Donald Trump said in Washington, but he's not sounding as optimistic now, and he's saying it could take another week or perhaps more. This is what he had to say.
I think we have a chance this week or next week. Not definitely. There's nothing definite about war and Gaza.
Now, as the negotiations continue, both sides seem inclined to accept the core of this proposal, which is a 60-day ceasefire during which Hamas would release about half of the living and dead hostages that remain. That's a total of 50, and half of those would be set free. The real stumbling blocks are over what happens at the end of those 60 days. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Officials from Ukraine's allies are meeting in Rome for the 2025 Ukraine Recovery Conference. The two-day meeting is focused on the rebuilding and reconstruction of Ukraine. It is the fourth such conference since Russia's invasion of Ukraine back in February 2022. Anna Cunningham has the latest from London.
This conference in Italy is aimed at mobilizing international support for Ukraine. This is what Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says.
We must clearly agree that frozen Russian assets should go toward Ukraine's recovery. Not only the income from these assets, but the assets themselves must be used and much more actively than they are now.
There is a figure, it's based on World Bank estimates, suggesting just how much it would cost to rebuild Ukraine in the event of peace, and that is some $800 billion. Now, Canada is very much a part of this Ukraine Recovery Conference in Italy. The finance minister is there, seen here meeting Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Champagne will take the opportunity to meet with several other international partners. Ukraine is still wanting more military aid. We know recently US President Donald Trump said he would send 10 Patriot missiles. And today the German Chancellor said at this conference that his country is prepared to buy Patriot air defense systems from the US and provide them to Ukraine. But the path to peace between Russia and Ukraine remains very uncertain. In Malaysia today, the US Secretary of State has been meeting with the Russian Foreign Minister just days after President Donald Trump said he was getting increasingly frustrated with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
I echoed what the president has said, both disappointment and frustration at the lack of progress in peace talks or in a path forward. So we'll continue to engage. We shared some ideas and comments, which I'll take back to Washington.
Now, he didn't elaborate on what the Russian foreign minister meant by ideas, but Rubio said the US's strategy remains one of engagement with both sides. And this was, he said, one of those opportunities. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
The boycott U.S. movement is still strong 6 months after Trump became president. Sophia Harris has the details on why this boycott has staying power.
Here you go.
It's shaping up to be a record sales year at this Ottawa gift shop, where almost every item is entirely made in Canada. Hot sellers include patriotic chocolate bars.
It's been really popular.
And this elbows up t-shirt.
It's really just a classic shirt you might want to wear out in a boot.
U.S. President Donald Trump began to anger Canadians back in February by launching a trade war and recommending Canada join the United States.
Well, I think Canada is going to be a very serious contender to be our 51st state.
That sparked a boycott of U.S. goods, so sales here soared and continue to do so, up 80% year over year.
It's like a big hug from your neighbors across the country saying, you know, we're in this together and we're going to protect our country.
Boycotts often wane over time, but the Buy Canadian movement remains strong.
It's something that has persisted. We've seen about 40% of small businesses say that they've seen increased sales in Canadian and locally made products.
For explicitly political reasons, I have been avoiding American products as much as I can. I just got to do the best that I can to support Canada right now.
Many Canadians also continue to avoid U.S. travel. The number of times Canadians visited the U.S. in June compared to last year declined by 22% for air travel and by 33% for land travel.
People are still traveling. We're just seeing less people traveling to the U.S. and more people traveling to places like Europe.
Part of the reasons why boycotts can be sustained is media attention.
This marketing professor says the boycott largely lives on because Trump is constantly in the news.
Canada is a very tough country to deal with.
It's got some staying power. When Trump calls us the 51st state as a deliberate insult, it is amplified on social media. And so he's actually keeping it top of mind. He's keeping the boycott going.
The question now, just how long will the U.S. boycott last? The answer may be up to Trump. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
A new study is suggesting climate change may have more than doubled the number of people who died in a recent heat wave in Europe. Nicole Martellero takes us through the findings.
Heat waves are notorious
as a silent killer.
Everybody is at risk. If you go out without water in the middle of the day to do jogging, have a bike ride, you will probably have health problems or even die.
From late June into early July, parts of Europe suffered extreme heat. Temperatures soared above 40 degrees Celsius in some regions. A new study looked at 12 European cities affected. It estimates that over 10 days, 2,300 people died from heat-related causes. Of those, 1,500 were attributed to climate change from the burning of fossil fuels.
Even without climate change, many places in Europe likely would have experienced a period of hot weather in the past couple of weeks. But climate change has made it significantly hotter than it would have been, which in turn makes it a lot more dangerous.
I'm surprised there's not more air conditioning in residential places.
The International Energy Agency estimates only 10 to 20% of European homes are air conditioned. And that means some of the most vulnerable, the elderly, are at higher risk of complication.
Older people are more likely to be living with chronic health conditions or taking medications as well that actually can also impair our body's mechanisms to actually regulate heat.
Canada isn't free from such deadly heat waves. The Climate Atlas of Canada estimates that by 2050, many Canadian cities will see at least 4 times as many days per year hit 30 degrees Celsius or hotter. Without relief measures like more air conditioning, heat-related deaths will rise.
Estimates range from hundreds of additional deaths to thousands of additional deaths.
With weeks of summer still to come, Europe and Canada can both anticipate more extreme heat. Nicole Mortellero, CBC News, Toronto.
Teams are getting in their final practices before the Canada Games begin in St. John's next month. And PEI's men's basketball squad wants to make a splash in the national tournament. The CBC's Cody McKay went to one of the practices and spoke to the players about what they expect to see next month.
Getting in every minute on the court is critical now, with the Canada Games in Newfoundland just a month away. The PEI men's basketball team is practicing hard, like they have something to prove to the rest of the country.
It's very important because people from other provinces don't think PEI is a very strong team in general, and then I think we have a good chance if we put in the work. We can shock the country if we play good.
For most of these players, it's their first Canada Games, playing against the top talent of their age group from across the country. An incredible experience, but this team wants to show them the island can play ball.
It's really exciting. Those guys are really good. Of course, they have a lot of talent. You learn from them. And I mean, it's the competitive part of it. You like to compete, you like to prove that you're better, you just like to play out there.
Theo Plord's older brother played in the Canada Games before, so he's seen the stands packed with fans, the loud cheers and intense moments. It's an environment that excites him.
I guess I just like the adrenaline, especially when it comes down to final shots. I like that feeling, especially with basketball, and mostly because I want to take the shots. So I just want to play. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to it, meeting a bunch of new players from different provinces and stuff. It should be fun.
Assistant coach Dennis Manning says the team wants to make PEI proud and have a tournament they'll remember for a lifetime.
This could be the biggest show for some of these kids, a lot of them actually. We hope as many as possible go on to play youth sport or play sport on. But this is a big event, not just a sporting event, but a life event for a lot of these guys. So hopefully we're making a positive experience for them.
The games run from August 8th to the 25th, with the men's basketball team's first game against Manitoba on August 10th. Cody McKay, CBC News, Charlottetown.
PEI on 3! 1, 2, 3, PEI!
This weather update is brought to you by Access Wellness Nova Scotia. Book your appointment today for free, confidential mental wellness support.
So, carbon copy of today, that's kind of what I'm getting myself ready for tomorrow.
But folks are just jumping over that, looking at the weekend
Sure they are.
forecast,
Yeah,
right?
forget about Friday. Yeah, Saturday and Sunday both looking great, so that's good news. Have a look at our viewer picture of the day. We're going to zoom in on the North Shore, and this from Northport Provincial Park.
Oh, wow.
Lovely silhouette.
I love the colors and
A little
the guest
visitor,
and-
yeah, that's right.
Diane saying
frameable.
This was sunrise, and that thankfully her dog stayed very quiet.
Good
and
thing.
so the deer was able
Hung
to,
out.
basically walk
Beautiful.
right through the shot there. Beautiful stuff. So tomorrow we're going to be in the high teens, low 20s across the province with winds from the east to southeast near 20 kilometers per hour, becoming lighter into the afternoon. But with the clouds, we're just going to be limited in terms of those temps. Saturday, it's light winds and warm temperatures and low humidity. Really, really looking nice for Saturday. Sunday is looking similar. So there's that rain, the bulk of which passing to the south tonight. Tomorrow, it's showers primarily in the east and through Cape Breton. Again, not a whole lot, though, by the looks of it. And then for Saturday, that clear out, looking at some isolated potential for some showers over the southwest. And a similar story for Sunday, just in that daytime heating, a little bit of isolated activity bubbling up. Really turning the thermostat up next week.
For sure. Okay, thanks, Ryan. Mattel has unveiled the first ever Barbie with type 1 diabetes. It debuted alongside a doll made in the likeness of a British model who herself has diabetes.
There's now a new type 1 diabetes mainline Barbie doll that people can buy and feel reflected by, and children can play with and see themselves represented in such a iconic Barbie doll.
Lila Moss, the daughter of supermodel Kate Moss, says it's exciting to be able to represent the community. This Barbie has accessories like insulin patches, an insulin pump, and also a glucose monitor.
The doll maker says it partnered with diabetes charity groups to design the medical equipment. Mattel had previously released a Barbie doll who is blind and a Barbie with Down syndrome.
There you go. That's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.